very inspiring to see Yidden come to shul in their work clothes. It means that you're in the midst of whatever you were doing, and in the middle of all of that, you made sure to come to shul. This is memorable, very, very inspiring. This is what a Jew is. Between Pesach and Shavuot and Sukkot, Pesach and Rosh Hashanah, we always learn ethics of fathers, Pirkei Avos. And it begins, Moshe Kibbutz Torah Sinai mesorah Yeshua. Moshe Rabbeinu, our teacher, our leader, Moshe Rabbeinu, who met face to face, personally, with the Almighty, with the Rebbeinu Shalom, and received directly, Mipiat Gvura, he received directly from the Rebbeinu Shalom, he received the Torah, and in turn, the Torah of Yeshua. He then gave over the Torah that he studied at the foot, sitting by the Almighty, by the Rebbeinu Shalom. He gave it over to Yeshua and to the prophet Yeshua. Yeshua to Zikanim. Yeshua gave it over, the Torah that we have today, gave it over to the Zikanim, the elders, and the elders gave mesorah the Nevi'im. They go over to the prophets, and in turn the prophets mesorah they gave it over to the great assembly. That's what's recorded here in Ethics of Fathers, that the Torah, the mesorah, the tradition was handed from Moshe to Yeshua, and Yeshua to the Zikanim, and so forth. The Gemara in Eruvin tells us that the order, how Torah was taught, given over from one generation to the next, is that, like we mentioned previously, the Almighty Rebbeinu Shalom, he was a student of the Almighty, the Rebbeinu Mipiat Gvura, and he then in turn taught the Torah to Aaron HaKohen, to Aaron the high priest. And then, when he finished teaching the Torah to him, so he went to the left side of Moshe, and his sons, Bonav, and then the elders and so forth. Seems to be a discrepancy between what we find here in Ethics of Fathers and the Gemara in Eruvin, and the order of how Torah was handed down. Our sages tell us, one of the sages remarked, he said, Harbe lamadti m'Rabbeisai. Much did I learn from my teachers. Yoser, and even more than I learned, knowledge that I gained from my masters, I learned from my associates, my chaver, umitalmidai yoshmi kulo. My disciples and my students, from them I gained the very most. I learned the most from my students. Students have something to offer that even a master doesn't offer, and that even the associates don't offer. The Gemara brings, as an example, the Gemara brings in Bava Metzia, brings that the great sage Rabbi Yochanan, a Chaver Talmud, an associate student, he played both roles, was Reish Lakish. They learned together Torah. Then when Reish Lakish left this world, so Rabbi Yochanan was beside himself. He lost such a partner in Torah. This was taken from him, a partner in Torah like Reish Lakish, he felt could not be replaced. Even though he wasn't his master, he was barely his associate, and more closely, he was only a student. And he was so taken with the death, with the departure of Reish Lakish, that the sages of the time, they tried to replace him, and they brought in very, very brilliant, bright students of Torah, and it could not replace, couldn't replace Reish Lakish. So one of the students that they gave him, He said, Rebbe, he said, every time you present a new novelette, something, a breakthrough, a chiddush in Torah, so I substantiate it with 24 different rayas, proofs from all of the Talmud, from the Talmud, from the Torah. So he says, he says, I don't need you for that. Don't I know that what I'm saying has such truth in it, so much Torah in it? He said, the difference between you and my disciple Reish Lakish was when I presented something, a new Torah thought, he asked 24 questions on it. And from that, the Rav Chaim Brisker, because he asked so many questions, he said, I had to delve deeper and deeper. And from that, he said, the Torah was so broadened, it broadened the horizons, so much more Torah was brought onto this world. So this is what a disciple can add. When Moshe Rabbeinu left this world, it says he was missed. Yivku Beis Yisrael, that the house of Israel, they cried, they wept over him. This is when Moshe Rabbeinu left the world. When Aaron HaKohen, when Aaron left this world, it adds one more word. Yivku Kol Beis Yisrael. The entire house of Israel, everybody wept when he left this world. Men, women, children, because he was Oev Shalom Regim Shalom, Oev Zabrizim Kamlat Teira. He was someone that had such compassion for his brothers, such love for them, that he was missed by each and every individual more even than Moshe Rabbeinu. One of the great sages of 2 generations past was Rav Chaim Brisker. Was a great sage. His works are studied by every Torah student, Rav Chaim Brisker. And when he was a young child of 6 or 7, he came home one day. He told his father, Rabbi Fishbain, he said, Tati, he said, I'm not going back anymore to study by this Rebbe. So he asked him, why? What's wrong? He said, there was a fight ensued in the classroom between 2 of the students. And one of them was an orphan, and the other was the son of a very wealthy, prominent, arrogant family. And the Rebbe, the teacher, took the side of the wealthy, prominent, arrogant individual. He said, a Rebbe that doesn't have compassion on someone who doesn't have feeling, who to have compassion for him, an orphan, a Yosem, he said, I don't want to learn Torah by him. His father realized that there's something to what he's saying. And he wouldn't force him to go back to the Rebbe. He found another chiluk to learn. A while later, he was stricken, which in those days was almost always fatal. He was stricken with pneumonia. And his father, Rabbi Fishbain, and his mother sat by his bedside day and night. He was in a coma, and they were expecting the worst. There wasn't antibiotics, wasn't these wonder drugs we have today. And then suddenly, he began murmuring something and saying something, speaking, and shortly thereafter the fever broke and he recovered. After he recovered, so his parents asked him, his tat, his mom, he said, my kind, he said, just before there was a drastic turnaround and you recovered, you started murmuring something in your coma. Do you know, were you aware of what you were saying? Could you repeat it to us? He said, absolutely. He says, the angel of death was standing over me. He was about to take me. And the soul of this orphan, his soul of his father, stood between me and the angel of death. And he said, someone who took my son's part, he says, you have no shlit, you have no reign over him. He turned away the angel, the angel of death, and he recovered. Here in Pirkei Avos, it tells us what was handed down, something for posterity from generation to generation, the Torah itself. Here, by Moshe and Aaron, there was something that Moshe Rabbeinu wanted to gain from the compassion that Aaron had. This he wanted to be in that sort of environment, wanted to gain that from him, to be able to give it over to Klal Yisrael. Chanani b'rakash omer, Rotsa HaKadosh Baruch Hu, l'zakei shesh Yisrael, l'fikol chibar l'Torah mitzvos, shneimar, Adonai Chodesh Manshikoi, Yadu Torah v'Yadu.